Good afternoon, students. In last class, we have read about highest level of motor control in the somatic motor control system. So, as we have read that the motor control system has a three-tier system, that is highest level of motor control, middle level of motor control, and lowest level of motor control. Highest level of motor control, it is in cortex, cerebral cortex. Middle level of control is basal ganglia, cerebellum, and some part of the brainstem, and lowest level is the spinal caudal neuron, motor neuron, anterior horn cell. So we'll talk about all this level. I think we have studied about the highest level of motor control. You can see this figure. Again, to revise it, it was covered in the last class. The highest level is the cerebral cortex, which contains cortical association area, premotor and motor cortex, while middle level subcortical center, it contains basal ganglia, cerebellum, brainstem nuclei, subcortical nuclei, and the lowest level is the spinal cord. Okay, so we'll move to the middle level today. We have covered the highest level. So before moving ahead to the middle level, we will discuss a few highlights regarding descending motor pathway. I'm very much hopeful that you'll have been taught this ascending and descending pathway, but here we will just give a few highlights that will be relevant to our topic. The pyramidal tract includes, so what is pyramidal tract? I mean the descending motor pathway from the motor cortex. One of the tract is the pyramidal tract, and this tract are nothing but axons that are originated from cerebral cortex and goes down to the spinal cord. In other words, we can say it a corticospinal tract also, right? So these pyramidal tracts are constituted by the axons that transmit motor signals, motor order, directly from the cortex to spinal cord, या फिर cortex to the brainstem. Cortex to the spinal cord, that is known as corticospinal tract. Cortico to the cranial nerve nucleus in the brainstem, that is known as corticobulbar tracts. So we have two tracts that constitute the pyramidal tract, right? Corticospinal tracts includes 31% fiber. Now this is very important question that has been frequently asked in PG examination. So very important. This corticospinal tracts includes 31% fiber that arises from the primary cortex, area number 6, or the bed cell. 31% is important data. So 31% fiber arises from the primary cortex, that is area number 6, while 29% from the premotor area, that is area number 4, while 40% arises from the somatic sensory cortex, area number 3, 1, 2, that is in the post-central gyrus, right? So 31% from the primary cortex, 29% from the premotor and supplementary cortex, and 40% from the somatic sensory cortex, that is area 3, area 1, area 2, that is present in the post-central gyrus. So now the corticospinal fiber that is coming right away from the cortex to the spinal cord may be divided into the two tracts. One goes lateral, that is known as lateral corticospinal tract, and one goes anterior, that is the anterior spinal tract, anterior corticospinal tract. So the lateral corticospinal tract is constituted by 80% of the fiber that cross the midline in the medullary pyramids. So in the medulla, pyramids means it's a triangular elevation, okay, where the fiber cross, and those fiber that cross, 80% of them form the lateral corticospinal tract that goes to the lateral part of the gray matter of the spinal cord, right? So these fiber end directly in the neuron in the ventral horn, that is the anterior horn of the spinal cord, and innervates the distal limb muscles, which are responsible for making a skilled precision movement. So this lateral corticospinal tract will go to the ventral or anterior horn, gray horn, and they will innervate, they will supply which type of muscle? Distal muscle. And these distal limb muscle like finger, toes, these are used for the making skillful and precision movements, like muscles that move fingers, hands, and the muscle that produces speech. So all the precision and skilled movements, or the distal limb muscles, distal muscles, they are supplied by this lateral motor system. They form the part of the lateral motor system. Anterior corticospinal tract is formed by those 20% fiber which do not cross while they go. That means they bypass the crossing that happens in the medullary pyramids. Okay, they are 20% fiber. So it descends ipsilaterally. Ipsilateral means same side. It does not cross to the opposite side as it was in the lateral corticospinal tract. Whatever fiber is in the lateral corticospinal tract is actually is coming from the opposite side of the brain. Okay, but this anterior corticospinal tract, okay, these are ipsilateral, means on the same side that is derived from the brain. It also ends in the ventral white column of the spinal cord. So they do not end in the gray matter, they enter the anterior white column of the spinal cord. These fibers ultimately cross the midline, but not at the medullary level. They will cross the midline then and there when they end in the spinal cord. Whenever they end in the spinal cord, then at that level they will cross, right? This pathway phylogenetically is the oldest and does not synapse directly with the ventral horn cell, but it will synapse with an interneuron. Okay, this anterior corticospinal tract fiber will first it will be connected to the, or it makes synapse with the interneuron cell. Okay, now from these interneuron synapse on the neuron it is the medial portion of the ventral horn. So these interneurons synapse that occurs, these are in the medial portion of the ventral horn. And we know that medial motor system, it forms a part of medial motor system, and we have studied that medial motor system controls what? They control axial movement, that is the trunk muscles. They also control the proximal limb muscle. Proximal limb muscle means those which are near to the joints, either shoulder girdle, hip girdle, right? So these are the proximal limb muscles. So they will control the axial muscle and proximal limb muscle. That means they are involved in which type of status? They involved with the posture and equilibrium, right? So these are about the story about the lateral corticospinal tract and anterior corticospinal tract, which are important from our equilibrium and posture point of view. Okay, which fiber help in axial or proximal limb muscle movement? It is anterior corticospinal tract. And which helps in the skilled precision movement? It is lateral corticospinal tract. Lateral corticospinal tract, it is mainly it contains the crossed fiber, but anterior cortical spinal tract mainly it contains the uncrossed fiber, right? Now, in the beginning we said that pyramidal tracts not only contains corticospinal tract, okay, but other fiber also. So they can be several fiber, but the main fiber are constituted by the lateral corticospinal tract and anterior corticospinal tract, okay. There are fiber which does not go from the cortex to the down to the spinal cord. They end in brainstem also. Okay, there is also lower motor neuron which are present in the brainstem. That is known as motor nuclei. So we have motor nuclei in the brainstem. We have motor nuclei in the spinal cord. Those ending in the motor nuclei in the spinal cord are called corticospinal tract, and those ending in the brainstem motor nuclei is known as extrapyramidal tract. So these extrapyramidal tract, these are the large number of fiber arising from the motor cortex which does not enter the corticospinal tract, but they will relay in various subcortical area like basal ganglia, like red nucleus, like reticular formation, okay, of the brainstem, and vestibular nuclei. So they will end in the basal ganglia, they will end in the red nucleus, they will end in the reticular formation of the brainstem, and they will end in the vestibular nuclei. Ultimately they constitute what? They constitute reticulospinal. So the fiber, second order fiber that will rise from this red nucleus, reticular formation, vestibular nuclei, they will go to the spinal cord. Okay, they will ultimately constitute reticulospinal, or we can say, if you go from the cortex, we will say cortico-reticulospinal. Okay, this is cortico-reticulospinal. So we can say in the similar way manner, we can say that there is cortico-vestibular and then spinal. So cortico-vestibular spinal tract. We can say cortico, if it is a red nucleus, so we can say cortico-rubro red nucleus and spinal. So cortico-rubrospinal tract. We say tactospinal tract, like cortico-tactospinal tract. Then we can say olivospinal tract, like cortico-olivospinal tract. So all these are tract which constitutes in the extrapyramidal tract. Sometimes you are asked in PG entrance examination which fiber constitutes extrapyramidal tract, and you will be given name of these reticulo. So you can just remember by any of the mnemonics, like anything, like if there is a reticulo, RVTO, like RVTO, like something like R से हो गया रेटिकुलो, V से हो गया वेस्टिबुलो, R से हो गया रूब्रो, T से हो गया टैक्टो, O से हो गया ओलिवो. ठीक है, अगर ये याद रहेगा तो इसका न्यूक्लियस और ट्रैक्ट भी जस्ट इट इज अ नोमेनक्लेचर materials. So all these are combined, they are called as extrapyramidal tract. Thus, in contrast to pyramidal tract, the extrapyramidal tract constitute multisynaptic pathway. So it's not a one synapse; it's multisynaptic fiber coming from cortex to the brain stem, and the brain stem there are multiple synapses, and then again it moves to the spinal cord, right? So they are known as multisynaptic pathway affecting the contralateral side of the spinal cord, means opposite side of the spinal cord. You can see here all the way from the cortex to the basal ganglia, lentiform nucleus. Lentiform nucleus contains what? It contains this putamen and this, what is this? Putamen and globus pallidus. शायद globus pallidus से होता है वहाँ पे, है ना? तो this is brainstem, coming to the brainstem, then to the red nucleus, substantia nigra, reticulonuclei, vestibular nucleus, all these nucleus are here, and they will again go to the ventral horn of the spinal cord, right? So these are the multisynaptic extrapyramidal tract. You can see many synapses present out there. What is the function of extrapyramidal tract? Extrapyramidal tract are chiefly controlled with the regulation of muscle tone and posture and equilibrium. So muscle tone, posture and equilibrium. Okay. Now we will come what we are about to discuss, the middle level. Okay, the middle level of motor control. As we have say that middle level of motor control consists of basal ganglia, cerebellum, and some part of the brainstem. The middle level of motor control specifies the posture and movement necessary to carry out the desired act. So it specifies, you can say it modulates, it modifies, it corrects. All these terms you can add to this middle level of motor control system. The posture and the movement necessary to carry out the desired act. It is concerned with development, perfection, okay, of each motor program or sub program for bringing out a motor act. So it's concerned with, you know, modifying. It concerned with development or perfecting each motor program or making corrections also. It also that means it has a supervision role. It has a supervision role on the motor program that is coming from the cerebral cortex. So one supervisor is the basal ganglia. Physiologically, basal ganglia includes what? Corpus stratum. When we say corpus stratum, it is caudate nucleus and lenticular nucleus. Okay, the lenticular nucleus have two parts, putamen and globus pallidus. When we say only stratum, so it is what? It is caudate nucleus plus putamen. Only stratum, caudate nucleus plus putamen. Corpus stratum, caudate nucleus plus putamen plus globus pallidus, right? We have subthalamic nucleus and substantia nigra. So if anyone asks you what are basal ganglia parts, so three parts: corpus stratum, subthalamic nucleus, substantia nigra. So what is the role of basal ganglia in somatic motor activity? So you must have read in the function of the basal ganglia, which ma'am had taught you. Here we will just revise it. The first function is controlling the voluntary motor activity by the basal ganglia. And what type of control it occurs? So the control that occurs from the basal ganglia to the motor action is the cognitive control. What is cognitive control? Cognitive control is not the actual motor activity. It is you can say the thought process that is attached to the any motor activities, maybe before the motor activity or during the motor activity. So these thought process are known as cognitive control, and this cognitive control of the motor activity is executed by basal ganglia through the caudate loop. We know we have different feedback loops, right? We have different feedback loop, like the fiber coming from the cerebral cortex to the caudate nucleus, right? From caudate nucleus to thalamus, and thalamus it goes to again to the cortex. So this is a feedback loop. So this feedback loop is concerned with cognitive control, but those fiber that come from cortex and going instead of caudate, it goes to the putamen and then to the thalamus and then again to the cortex. That is known as putamen loop, and that is actually concerned with the motor activity. but this caudate loop is concerned with the cognitive control of the motor activity, right? So what is that cognitive control? So it is first टाइमिंग एंड स्केलिंग ऑफ द इंटेंसिटी. ओके, लाइक अगर इसमें हम ये देखिए एग्जांपल कि एक बंदा है जो क्रिकेट खेलता है एंड ही हैज़ अ बैट विथ हिम. ओके, समबडी बॉल्स टू हिम, तो उसकी टाइमिंग अच्छी होनी चाहिए सो दैट बॉल एंड बैट कैन हिट द बॉल. उसकी स्केलिंग अच्छी होनी चाहिए सो दैट after hitting the ball it will go to a 6 or a 4. okay, so दोनों चीज ही चाहिए, टाइमिंग भी अच्छी होनी चाहिए और स्केलिंग भी अच्छी होनी चाहिए, तभी वो पर्पसफुल मोटर इवेंट जो कि 6 मारना है 6 मारना जो भी कुछ ये हो सकता है. उसके माइंड में जो चलते रहता है कि मैं अभी 2 लूंगा, 1 रन लूंगा, तो उसी हिसाब से वो टाइमिंग फिक्स करेगा और अपना स्केलिंग फिक्स करेगा. टाइमिंग तो मांगता है, स्केलिंग फिक्स करेगा कि हमको जोर से मारना है, कम मारना है. ओके, सो दिस टाइमिंग एंड स्केलिंग, दिस थॉट प्रोसेस occurs in the basal ganglia. It plays important role in timing of the movement. That is, timing means how rapidly the movement should perform. If anything occurs in this function, so the movement will be delayed. Movement will be delayed. Scaling and intensity means how large the movement should be. So this is the first function, that is the timing and scaling of the intensity, right? The second function is subconscious execution of some movements. Subconscious means you are not aware of that motor movement, right? It is also done by the basal ganglia. This subconscious execution of the motor movement is also done by the basal ganglia during the performance of a trained motor activity. So if once the motor activity is done, it won't ever be used in subconscious education. It will only be in your subconscious education when it is more repeatedly done, so that you get trained to that motor activities. Okay, now here, as I said, that putamen feedback circuit is involved in the actual motor performance. So this subconscious execution of movement is done by the putamen loop, whereas the cognitive control is done by the caudate loop. C for caudate, C for cognitive. Okay, so what is this subconscious trained movement? So whenever we walk, we are not aware of any other movements, do we? No, we are not aware of, but we do swing our arms. So that is subconscious. When we swim, of course it's a trained activity, otherwise we will sink. So whenever we swim, our limbs movements are subconscious. You are talking, you are listening to music, okay, and you are moving your hands and legs without even your conscious, without even involving your attention. So that is the subconscious execution of movement, that is also performed by basal ganglia. The other function is the control of reflex muscular activity. So basal ganglia generally have an inhibitory effect on spinal reflex. So it has a inhibitory effect on spinal reflex, and thus it can regulate the activity of the muscle which maintain posture. Okay, so what inhibition, how much inhibition should it be given? That will guide the tone in the muscle, and hence it will help in the maintaining posture. Third function is control of muscle tone. We are discussing muscle spindle and gamma motor neurons of the spinal cord are controlled by basal ganglia. and these muscle spindle and gamma motor neurons are important for maintaining the muscle tone, very much important. Sometimes muscle tone, the MCQs come, and options are alpha motor neuron, gamma motor neuron. So it is always a gamma motor neuron which controls the muscle tone, and this gamma motor neuron and muscle spindle are itself controlled by the basal ganglia. So you can say the basal ganglia part, that is substantia nigra, is a major controller for the muscle spindle, gamma motor neurons, and hence the muscle tone. Okay, suppose you have lesion of basal ganglia, suppose you have destruction of basal ganglia, so your spinal reflexes will be relieved of the inhibition, and whenever it will be relieved by the inhibition, it will be excited, and that's why the muscle tone will increase in the lesion of basal ganglia. So we have many type of abnormal movements in a disease of basal ganglia, right? The second organ that is important in the middle level of control of the somatic motor system is the cerebellum. It is divided into three divisions, functionally, not anatomically, functionally. One is vestibulocerebellum, spinocerebellum, and corticocerebellum. So just visualize a figure of a butterfly. The wings of the butterfly is the corticocerebellum. The middle portion of the butterfly, the body of the butterfly, is the spinocerebellum. The tail of the butterfly, the end part, the end tail of the butterfly, is the vestibulocerebellum, right? So it controls the, first of all, the cerebellum controls the voluntary movements. Corticocerebellum, okay, corticocerebellum, these are the fiber coming from cerebral cortex to the cerebellum. They are also known as cerebral cerebellum. नाम याद करना बहुत आसान है, बस सिर्फ ये पता होना चाहिए फाइबर कहाँ से कहाँ जा रहा है, ओरिजिन जहाँ से हुआ पहला नाम उसका, एंड जहाँ हुआ अंत नाम उसका. Is intimately associated with the control of timing, rate, range, duration, direction, strength. So much function, so many function of corticocerebellum. So this fiber controls what? Timing, rate, with what frequency it will a movement should occur, what range it should occur, for how much duration the movement should occur, in which direction, and with what the strength. So corticocerebellum perform these functions through following tract. Two tracts you will study in the in the cerebellum. One is open feedback loop, that is the cerebello-cerebral circuit. I don't know why it is called open feedback. Then we have closed feedback, the fiber coming from cerebral cortex to the specific nucleus, that is a paravermal cerebellum, and again going to the cerebral cortex. These are known as closed feedback loop. So two loop, open feedback loop, closed feedback loop. Open feedback loop, simple, cerebellar, and then cerebral circuit, and closed feedback loop, it is cerebral, then paravermal cerebellum, and then again to cerebral cortex. Now what is the mechanism of action? So voluntary function, how it affects control the voluntary function, let's see. The cerebellum has one function known as comparator function. So it can compare a motor movement. इसका बहुत ही सिंपल एग्जांपल्स मैं दे सकता हूँ. मान लो सेरिब्रल कॉर्टेक्स ने एक ऑर्डर दिया एक मूवमेंट करने को, ठीक है, चलो पहला टाइम है, सेरिब्रल ने उसे पास कर दिया, motor movement is done, right? Then you fall down after walking for a distance, you fall down. That means there was some defect in your motor movement. Either you got disbalanced, right? Either वो hand or your posture of the body was not proper, maybe. So you had fallen down. Then what happened? This information will again go to the cerebellum. Now, the second time you perform the same, your cerebral cortex order gives the same motor movement to occur. Now, when the order comes, it will analyze, compare the past mistakes, the previous motor activity order, correct, and it can make correction. It will compare those two, and if there is any correction to be made in the latest order by the cerebral cortex, the cerebellum will make it, and then again send to the cerebral cortex, and then the final fiber will come from the cortex to the spinal cord to perform the corrected movement. Okay, taking into account the different impulses from the receptors. That receptor will tell you which position your limb is, in which direction your limb is. Okay, your visual receptor will tell you, is there any obstacles in the pathway? So all these visual information, all these inputs from different receptors is taken into account while correcting a movement, and that corrected movement will also get stored in the cerebellum, so that next time you perform, the same thing occurs, right? So this is a comparator function. The cerebellum receives input from the commands neuron, which about the sequence that is intended, sequentially intended planned movements for the next fraction of a second. It also gets feedback, afferent fiber, from the various proprioceptive ending of muscles, tendons, joint, about what actual movement result. All these information are integrated, and the corrective signals are sent to the motor cortex. This happens through the closed feedback circuit, that is the cerebral motor cortex, then to paravermal cerebellum, and then to cerebral cortex. Like, now we have damping action. Cerebellum sends impulse to the cerebral cortex to discharge appropriate signals to muscles, so that any extra or exaggeration of the muscular activity does not occur, and thus overshooting is prevented. This action of corticocerebellum is called damping action. What is damping action? Let's understand. Suppose any type of movement is there. Okay. Suppose you want to touch a cheek of your friend or your girlfriend, anything. So when you are trying to do this motor activity, if this damping action is not there, so what will you do? Instead of touching, you will slap her. Unknowingly, you were not intended to do that. Never in your wildest dream you were intended to do that, but you end up doing that because your cerebellum damping action was not performed. So for every movement, a damping action has to be performed by cerebellum, so that the movement occurs in appropriate and it is not over exaggerated. So it is performed in an appropriate manner. The third is timing and programming of the skilled movements. Same thing that we have discussed. This occurs through the open feedback loop. Okay, it will modulate the motor command of the pyramidal tract through the two-way communications. Then we have servo mechanism. Okay, servo mechanism. So till now we had the notion that every movements get through the cerebellum, get corrected, and then goes to the no. There are few movements which are very much has to be very quick. It does not have time to go to the cerebellum and then to the cortex and again to the pyramidal tract to do the activity. No, some are very fine activities that has to perform very quickly. So this cerebellum will say, okay, just you go, but don't do any mistakes. So they will not allow the order to come to them. They will allow the order to go back to the spinal cord. If in that intended movement any mistakes occurs, then cerebellum comes to rescue. That is the servo mechanism. So cerebellum lets the cerebral cortex to discharge the signal which are already programmed, okay, and stored at the sensory-motor cortex. Does not influence much. However, if there is any disturbance or interference, the corticocerebellum immediately influences the cerebral cortex and then corrects the movement, and then that plan of movement will be stored in the cerebral cortex to resume its function again and again. This action is known as servo mechanisms, right? So the other function is, of course, the control of body posture and equilibrium. This is done by the vestibulocerebellum. The tail part of the butterfly is the vestibulocerebellum. They will affect the posture and equilibrium, and the body, that is a spinocerebellum, that will control the muscle tone and stretch reflex. Okay, so the butterfly wings, which is much closer to the cerebral cortex. Just wait a moment. So this is for control of muscle tone and stretch reflex, control of body posture and equilibrium. These are also the function for the cerebellum. Then we study about the third organ, which are a part of middle motor system, middle level of control of motor system, that is brainstem. In the brainstem, you have reticular formation and vestibular nuclei. Reticular formation and vestibular nuclei, that are important components of the motor control system. So what is reticular formation? The motor control centers which are present in the reticular formation are actually a relay station for all the descending tract except those requiring greater precision. That we have discussed, that some of cerebellum leaves some of the greater precision motor command. In the same way, this reticular formation of the brainstem also leaves out some of the greater precision command. It does not go to the descending command does not go through the reticular formation, but most of the descending motor commands, they do go through reticular formation in the brainstem. Okay, so what do actually this reticular formation do to the motor system? The motor control centers receive and modify the motor commands to the proximal and axial muscle of the body, responsible for the maintaining normal posture tone. So the motor control center receives and modify the motor command. So it receives also, and then it tries to modify the command to the proximal and axial muscle, both proximal muscle of the joint. The muscle near to the joint is known as proximal muscle and axial muscle. So they will be maintaining what? They will be maintaining posture. So all the axial muscles and proximal muscle, they maintain the posture. So is the reticular formation. Now these neurons, the neurons present in the reticular formation are prevented from firing too rapidly by the inhibitory input derived from the cerebral and cerebellar components of the motor system. The amount of inhibition is increased to reduce postural tone and is decreased to enhance the postural tone. So this is the function of the reticular formation. So the neurons present in them, what they do? They are prevented from firing too rapidly by the inhibitory inputs. So whatever the inhibitory inputs come from the cerebral or cerebellum, so they are inhibited actually. These inputs are inhibited. So according to inhibition, the level of inhibition, either it is level of inhibition is less or level of inhibition is more, so your postural tone will be more or less accordingly, right? So the withdrawal of inhibition, when the completely inhibition is withdrawal, that is known as release of inhibition. Okay, and that will increase the neuronal activity. So sometime brainstem में हम लोग we use this function to sometimes release this inhibition. Suppose किसी को paralysis हुआ है, ठीक है, and we want to do some brainstem stimulation. We want to remove this cord which is supplying to the this reticular formation. So when we release this inhibition coming from the cerebellum, coming from the cerebellum, when these fibers are cut, they will definitely be excited. When the inhibition release, something is excited. So the inhibition from the nucleus from which inhibition is released, the nucleus get excited, and then there will be increased neuronal activity in the CNS. So sometimes to increase CNS, we call it release of inhibition. We do it therapeutically for a patient. Vestibular nuclei. Vestibular nuclei located within the brainstem and cerebellum receives information from the vestibular receptor via vestibular nerve fiber. Okay, so vestibular nuclei, which is located within the brainstem and cerebellum, okay, they receive information from the vestibular receptor via vestibular nerve. Vestibular system reflexes. It maintains tone in anti-gravity muscles, coordinate the adjustment made by the limbs and trunks to maintain the balance, and adjust the position of the eyes to maintain visual fixation when the position of the head changes. Okay, so these are the function of the vestibular nuclei. They maintain the tone, anti-gravity muscle, they coordinate the movement, okay, to maintain the balance, and they will also adjust the position of the eyes to maintain the visual fixation. Okay, when your head changes, what should be the position of your eyes, that is maintained by the vestibular nuclei. So I think it's very much clear. These were the middle level of the motor system. Okay, now we come to lowest lower of motor system, and the lowest lower level of the motor control is exerted by motor nuclei of the cranial nerve and spinal cord. Okay, the motor nuclei in the spinal cord is known as alpha motor neuron, and motor nuclei in the of the cranial nerve in the brainstem is known as what? Bulbar nuclei. ठीक है, तो ये दोनों न्यूक्लियाई जो है इसको बोलते हैं लोवेस्ट लेवल ऑफ मोटर सिस्टम. द स्पाइनल कॉर्ड कंटेन्स फाइनल कॉमन पाथवे in the form of alpha motor neuron through which a movement is executed. Organized in the spinal cord, there are patterns of movement. Okay, the pattern has been decided, nothing to modify now. They are the pattern that is being drawn into the descending tracts to the spinal cord. They are the patterns of the movement, and they involve nearly all the muscle in the body. By selecting the proper motor neuron, so that pattern is made in such a way that will pick up some motor neuron, some or few motor neuron according to the task. So for a specific task, a specific motor neuron is picked up, and by reflexively adjusting the amount of motor neuron activity. So it's a combination of both. Order is there, motor neuron it has been picked, and by the reflex activity of this at the level of the spinal cord, this will control the tone and everything. Okay, so that will ultimately contribute to a proper performance of a purposeful act. The spinal cord activity ranges from a simple withdrawal reflex to the coordinated movement of all four extremities. Now spinal cord में हम लोग देखते हैं motor neurons. पहले देखेंगे हम लोग alpha motor neuron, then we have gamma motor neuron, then we have interneuron, and then we have Reynolds cells. These are the four neurons that we get in the spinal cord, and these all are present. Of course, they are motor neurons. All these four are motor neurons. So they will be present where? Dorsal or ventral? Ventral horn of the spinal cord, of the gray matter of the spinal cord, right? So alpha motor neurons, these are the largest neurons which gives rise to myelinated axons. They are 14 micrometer in diameter and conducts action potential very rapidly. So more the diameter, more is the rapid the conduction is. Okay, so this is the largest neuron, more conduction, more diameter. The axons of alpha motor neurons leaves the spinal cord through the ventral nerve roots of the spinal nerve and innervate the extrafusal fiber of the skeletal muscle. So this will ultimately the axon will ultimately end into the, so you have muscles, we have inner intrafusal fiber and surrounded by the extrafusal fiber. So this alpha motor neuron actually ends on the extrafusal fiber of the skeletal muscle, and they are responsible for contraction of the muscle in upper limb, trunk and lower part of the body. Then we have gamma motor neurons. These are smaller than the alpha motor neurons and they will give rise to smaller axons as compared to the alpha motor neurons. They average only 5 micron in diameter, so less diameter, so slow conduction of the action potential in these neurons. These neurons innervate or supplies the intrafusal fiber and not the intrafusal fiber of the muscle spindles, and they are responsible for the maintenance of tone. So gamma motor neuron and not the alpha motor neurons are responsible for the muscle tone. Then we have interneuron or connector cells as we know it. So they are 30 times more numerous than the other motor neurons and highly excitable. They have a spontaneous firing rate that can go up to the 1500 per second. And interneurons actually receive the bulk of synaptic input that reaches the spinal cord either as incoming sensory information or signal descending from the higher center of the brain. So it has the many synaptic input. As I said, it can receive some anterior corticospinal fiber. It can receive some the reflex arc input fiber that is coming from the dorsal nerve root toward the dorsal gray horn and ending into the interneurons, and from interneurons now the motor neurons, and then the efferent will go. So it can receive input at the level of the spinal cord or from the cerebral cortex in the form of corticospinal tract, right? Then we have Renesau cells. Renesau cells. They are particular variety of interneuron that receives input. Now just focus on this Renesau cells. ये interesting है. ये भी एक तरह का interneurons है. It receives input कहाँ से? From the collateral branch of the axon of alpha motor neurons. Suppose alpha motor neuron is there. वहाँ से एक collateral निकला, afferent निकला. That will supply these Renesau cells. और फिर Renesau cells से तो फिर efferent जो निकलेगा वो again it will go to the cell body of alpha motor neuron. Understanding means उसके axon से मतलब अल्फा मोटर न्यूरॉन के एक्सॉन से एक कोलेटरल ब्रांच निकला जो कि सप्लाई किया Renesau cells को, और Renesau cells से जो आउटपुट निकला वो अगेन इट गोज टू द सेल बॉडी ऑफ द सेम अल्फा मोटर न्यूरॉन जहां से वो कोलेटरल रिसीव कर रहा था, उसी अल्फा मोटर न्यूरॉन के सेल बॉडी पर वो आउटपुट देगा. एंड दीज आर इनहिबिटरी न्यूरॉन्स that control the alpha motor neuron. They are inhibitory neurons that play an important role in synaptic inhibition at the level of the spinal cord. Okay, so we have arrangement of the motor neuron in ventral horn. जो भी मोटर न्यूरॉन है, जो चारों मोटर न्यूरॉन के बारे में हम लोग बात किए थे, ऐसा मोटर न्यूरॉन बहुत है, but mainly these four. They are arranged in ventral horn in some specific classified role, like medial group, lateral group, okay, and then you have central group also. Medial group, it extends along the length of the spinal cord, the whole length of the spinal cord. The neurons situated in the medial part of the ventral gray horn will innervate what? It is the medial system, so innervate what? You will say it innervates the axial group of muscle. It will innervate the proximal muscle of the limb. So it will do what function? It will maintain the posture and equilibrium, right? So this is a part, this motor system, medial group of neurons in the anterior horn cell also forms a part of the medial motor system that we have been discussing earlier also. So the खासियत जो इसका है मिडिल ग्रुप का ऑफ न्यूरॉन्स का कि ये पूरे के पूरे स्पाइनल कॉर्ड के लेंथ, मोस्ट ऑफ द स्पाइनल कॉर्ड लेंथ तक ये अलोंग द वे ऑफ द स्पाइनल कॉर्ड चलता है। ये लैटरल ग्रुप जो होता है वो पूरे स्पाइनल कॉर्ड में नहीं रहता है। दिस ग्रुप न्यूरॉन इज कन्फाइंड टू ओनली सर्वाइकल, बिटवीन द सर्वाइकल एंड लंबोसेक्रल इनलार्जमेंट। सर्वाइकल इनलार्जमेंट और लंबोसेक्रल इनलार्जमेंट, दो इनलार्जमेंट है स्पाइनल कॉर्ड का, उस दोनों के बीच में रहता है। एंड सप्लाई द मसल इन द डिस्टल पोर्शन ऑफ द लिम्ब, दैट इज डिस्टल। जहां भी डिस्टल बोलेंगे तो हम लोग क्या समझ जाना है कि दीज आर एक्चुअली व्हाट, दीज आर इन्वॉल्विंग द स्किल्ड वेल कोऑर्डिनेटेड मूवमेंट। Central group of this group of neuron is represented by the phrenic and accessory nuclei and by the lumbosacral nucleus. Okay, this group of neuron is represented by the phrenic and accessory nuclei and by the lumbosacral nucleus. Motor function क्या होता है? Motor functions which is served by the spinal cord are control of ultimate motor function, control of movement of the muscle and joints. A spinal cord will control the tone and power of the muscles, control of deep reflexes, control of superficial reflex, and of course it is aided by the superior brain. But these are the function that is served by the spinal cord. ठीक है, तो हम लोग इतना ही तक रहने देते हैं. We'll study next step by step the next class.